Yeah, welcome back from that background report on resuscitating the textile industry in Nigeria. And with me here is Engineer Abayomi Onasanya, Global Director, Africa House. We will be looking at, resuscitating and how we can, take care of the challenges facing this industry, how we can pave way to its resurgence. As the textile industry, it is the cornerstone for the economy, the growth of the economy. Well, it's my belief that with the right approach, we can bring it back. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you again.
Thank you so much.
So, resuscitating the textile industry in Nigeria, what are the main challenges facing this industry?
The industry is an interesting one because historically we've been a textile producing nation. Back in the 60s, even in the 50s, we produce a lot of cotton and other materials required for the industry. But over the years, we discovered that all the major textile producing factories, they all died away. And as a result, we've resorted to importing even the so-called Ankara and Ashwebi, even from China and other parts of the world, which is really, really sad. And this industry really needs to be resuscitated if we're to create jobs, if we're to save billions of dollars in foreign currency that we spend every year on clothes. And as you know, Nigerians, every Friday, Saturday, we do parties, we use different fabrics. Exactly. So it is an industry that has to be taken very, very seriously. And like you said, the challenges has been lack of care, if I may use that word, or lack of foresight, on the part of the people in charge, and the industry basically died out, you see. And we'll talk more about how we can resuscitate it and what are the benefits to resuscitating the industry.
Okay, so how can the government, support the revival of this textile industry and through policy measures?
Well, on the policy side, the first thing the government needs to do is make certain laws, to curb the importation of certain categories of textiles. Historically, we all know that some textiles like Ankara, Adire, is made in Nigeria, you see, and then you discover now that we're even importing Adire from other parts. For the people who don't understand Yoruba, Adire is printed fabric. You see, like a handmade fabric with all the patterns and what beautiful. And we need to make laws to stop the importation of all these products, these materials, and then we'll be forced to produce locally, because history has shown that if you ban a certain commodity, then people will have to think outside the box. They would be forced to produce. And of course, also the government needs to work on providing the infrastructure required to allow this industry grow, like electricity. Imagine I have all the machines to produce all these equipment and these materials, and I don't have NEPA, I don't have electricity to get it done. Relying on diesel is simply not profitable. So government needs to work on these two key areas. And then, of course, on the private sector, we'll talk about what the private sector also can do to ensure that this industry moves forward. And you see, on the private sector side, we need to get more investors, more people to get involved in the textile industry, which is an interesting field, by the way. I'll paint a bit of picture for you here. Countries like Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they have built multi-billion-dollar industry around the textile industry. In Sri Lanka, more than 20% of the population works directly or indirectly in the textile industry, because they are known as a place where you can go as a foreigner, invest your money and start manufacturing different types of clothing. And the whole world will buy, and then they start making a lot of money from that. Bangladesh is known for making T-shirts. Even Vietnam, all those white T-shirts and what have you, they manufacture. They have a whole army of people, in their millions. And when you combine the whole of Asia together, working in this industry, generating hundreds of billions every year for their various economies. We can do that in Nigeria. We're 200 million plus. So we can create jobs. So the potential is huge. On the private sector, you make a lot of money. That's just the truth. So we need to balance the two, policy side on the government and the private sector investment to be able to boost this industry. And, one thing I would love to talk about is the potential for creating jobs. This industry alone can employ more than 10 to 20 million Nigerians. Easy.
All hands on deck.
Exactly. Because what we need to simply do is get the fabrics in. Let's say initially, because this industry requires a lot to be resuscitated. Because if we say we're going to resuscitate it in the next 2-3 months, I'll be lying to you. Because
it will take years.
exactly, it will take years. But one quick, low hanging fruit that we can all quickly benefit from is the manufacturing side of this industry. We'll do what Sri Lanka is doing, what Thailand is doing, what Vietnam is doing. We'll establish clothing production lines, or shall I say manufacturing industries that would employ millions of people. You can do it, I can do it, anyone can do it for that matter. You think about it. Let's imagine, let's say the cameraman, for example, establishes a cloth manufacturing line producing, let's say, t-shirts. He employs 50 people. He has 15 sewing machines. He brings the fabrics in from different parts of the world. He starts manufacturing t-shirts. He can sell a single t-shirt for 1,500 naira, 2,000 naira, and so on and so forth. And in a single factory, in his factory, he can be producing maybe 5,000 shirts a day. And there are buyers for these products. In the clothing industry, you don't have to look for buyers. The buyers are there. In fact, you will get contract manufacturing to say, you know what, please manufacture for me every month 2 million so and so and so and so materials.
And definitely you get buyers.
Exactly. So we can tap into that on the short term.
We've been discussing how we can bring back, resuscitate the textile industry in Nigeria. We'll go on a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back from that break. And with me here in the studio is Engineer Abayomi Onasanya, and we'll be discussing how we can resuscitate the textile industry in Nigeria. So, sir, still looking at how we can bring back this industry. What can I do, or what can you do? You know, how we can tap into this industry and make money. Because as Nigerians, we all love to make money. Everybody loves to make money. So how can I tap into it and, you know, make that money?
All right. So
in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, I would answer that question in two veins. The first vein is as from the perspective of an entrepreneur. You think about it. In Nigeria, we often complain there's no job, there's no money, and whatnot. Let's take, I love to use the cameraman as an example because he's the one recording us. Let's say this cameraman says, you know what, I want to tap into this industry. The first thing he has to do is, as an entrepreneur, you can set up a small factory producing clothes. I'll take you to a place like Maraba in Abuja. When you go to Maraba, even Kubwa or other parts of Abuja, you see people buying second-hand clothing material, shirts, t-shirts, whatnot. And the cheapest you will find is 1,500 naira, 2,000, all the way to 15,000, 20,000. Okay. The cameraman, as an entrepreneur, can set up a clothing manufacturing business in his house, whereby he needs to purchase maybe 10 sewing machines. Each one is around second-hand, let's say 20,000, brand new 45,000 naira. So that means he's investing 400,000 naira to set up a clothing industry. He will employ 10 people, young people. Then he will get the fabrics in. He will start producing every day around, let's say, 1,000 packing shirts every day, starting from 8 o'clock to around maybe 5 p.m. You can even do 2 shifts, in fact. He's he's doing 1,000 shirts every day. Multiply that as at the wholesale price of, let's say, 1,000 naira. 1,000 times 1,000, that's 1 million, right? So he's getting an income of 1 million every day.
Well, he has invested
400,000 every day, exactly. So at the end of the month, you're making 30 million. Out of that 30 million, your expense and everything will not be more than 40%, even cheaper. Exactly. So that's how you can make money.
You make a lot of people come for you.
And that's just the local market, by the way. Now, let me show you a very interesting part of the business here. The cameraman who started with 10 folks in his bedroom, I mean, in his living room. Now, when you start doing that, you now get potential export markets in England, in America, in the whole of Europe for that matter, who will now say, sir, please, can you be supplying us this 1,000 shirts for the next 2-3 years? So they will contract the manufacturing to him. Then he's earning dollars, not naira anymore. So he won't be selling for 1,000 anymore. He'll be selling for maybe $8. You see, that's 8,000 naira. It's get exactly. And now imagine after 2-3 months, he scales up his business to 100 sewing machines,
So he needs
500 sewing machines.
He needs to employ more.
Thank you. So only him now is employing 1,000 people. Now, what about you? What about me? And I can tell you for a fact, you go to certain factories in Vietnam, they employ 10,000 people, 200,000 people, a single factory. That's just packing shit. You can do underwear. You can do baby clothing. That is another interesting thing I want to tell Nigerians. There's money in manufacturing clothes for babies. Whether you like it or not, as an adult, you must buy clothes for your baby. Even before you buy for yourself, you buy for your child. So that's one interesting, fantastic industry you can tap into. You manufacture clothing for babies for maybe from zero to like 6 months or 3 months, 2 years, and there's a huge export market. The population of the world is growing so fast, they need more clothing. You can make money in Nigeria, you can make it in Africa, you can make it in America, you can make it in Europe. These people are looking for people to manufacture clothing. And on the other side, the other vein I said I wanted to talk about is the vein of technical expertise. In the clothing industry, there are people who are trained in certain things as a cutter.
Okay.
In Asia, there are people who are trained as a master cutter. All they do is they cut all the fabrics in the patterns it's supposed to be, and they pay them well.
And then the ones that can,
Exactly.
design everything.
Even the designers. People who design new clothing designs. That's another industry.
How can we now adapt into this, textile making and everything in our educational system for our kids to learn the skills?
In Nigeria, we have a lot of vocational schools and technical colleges who often focus on, no offense, cake making and other skills, which is brilliant. But we need to focus a lot more on the textile industry, which basically means equipping the youths with the skills to manufacture clothing, because clothing is a very, 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 very interesting field and very lucrative. I'll give an example. For every production run, I'm talking mass production now, we have what we call quality officers who look at the output of the clothing. They look at the sewing and everything. If they see a single skip on the sewing, they discard it. Because you cannot sell that to the Western markets, you see. So that becomes rejects. That's why you have factory outlets and whatnot. So if we are able to teach our children or the youth in these world-class ways of producing garments and whatnot, not just sewing babariga or whatnot. I mean, we need to be competitive. We need to think, we need to think outside the box. They need to start teaching them all of this. You see, not just the basic things that we know, which is cool. Our culture is awesome, but we need to earn dollars, right? So we need to teach them all these skills, how to be a master cutter, how to be a quality control officer in the textile industry. After that is done, then we need to ensure that Nigerians have access to the tools required, like the sewing machines at very good rates and whatnot. And then we would also create a bit of financial support in terms of getting the raw materials to get started, from different banks, all those intervention programs. So this will allow an average Nigerian to say, you know what, I'm graduating, I don't want to look for a job, I want to start a clothing manufacturing line. You see, and the beauty of that is for every cloth that you make is written made in Nigeria. So all those countries that I mentioned, every apparel that is manufactured, regardless of where it's going, whether it's for whatever in America, is written made in Sri Lanka, made in Vietnam. So as people are seeing it, it's, okay, Nigeria, they manufacture shirts there too. Who knows where your shirt will land? Maybe somebody wears your shirt from England and it goes to maybe Kazakhstan. And I was like, they can do this in Nigeria. Let me go to Nigeria and manufacture Nigeria too. You see, I did the same in Sri Lanka, by the way. And like I said in the previous interviews, I had my own linen shirt manufacturing line 10 years ago in Sri Lanka.
So
Yeah,
active.
active. So we can do the same. You see, we can manufacture a lot of things. Trust me, even sportswear.
Yeah, especially that.
Exactly. Sportswear, lingerie, name it. Ties, suits, all this is doable. So we just need the right mix of advocacy, support, and knowledge to be able to get us started. And it's an industry we can start in as quick as maybe 30 days. You don't need months, you know.
Oh, you don't
Yeah.
have to sit down
Or
and
you don't need to.
think and then
No,
start
you don't need to.
procrastinating.
Like we said, the cameraman can start with 400,000.
Oh, that's a good one.
Exactly.
So let's have your final words before we let you go.
Nigerians, please, there are a lot of industries we can make money from. The textile industry is one of them. Let us tap into this industry. Let us learn a bit about it. Let us get the required skills required to become a professional tailor. Let us go beyond making babariga, hagbada, and abaya and other things to, produce things that the whole world requires. We live in a global world. Let us think outside the box. And believe you me, our nation will be better off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Always good to have you on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I've been speaking with Engineer Abayomi Onasanya, and we'll be looking at how we can resuscitate the textile industry in Nigeria. You know, the challenges facing it, but with the right skills and the right approach, this can be done. We're going to short break and entertainment corner comes.